Hello. A warm welcome from the Matrixers from the enchanting south of England. We're on a European trip and initially stayed between Brighton and London. And I would say the area here is just magical. Yes, very English. The whole vegetation also looks a bit different than in Germany or Austria or Switzerland, for example. So it seems somehow fairy tale-like. Very cuddly and cute everywhere and so much green and you really feel snuggled up here. Yes, well we are between London and Brighton now. So more towards Brighton, much more. Yes. Exactly. We have also been to Brighton and looked at Brighton. I was there many years ago as a teenager. And a lot has changed here. All the gambling dens are gone. But otherwise, well, we still found one. We found one more, exactly. And of course something crazy happened to you. You brought such a delicious soft ice cream. Insanely good. I knew it from childhood. That's really damn good, the soft ice cream. But I wasn't able to really enjoy it. I held it in my hand and the cheeky seagulls came and snatched it out of my hand. 4 pieces at once. It was on the floor. Boom, it was gone within 3 seconds completely. I couldn't even look at the floor. It was gone that quickly. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, except with monkeys in India. They're just as cheeky. Since I bought bananas here, the monkey came and snatched them away from me. Was never seen again. And neither were the bananas. Yes, the gulls are pretty big here too, I think. So bigger than the cats. Yes, they are raven-sized, I would say. Well, they're even bigger, really fat little animals. Yes, I can show a video. From Giga Giga Seagulls. From the Giga Gulls here. And the 4 seagulls that pounced on Shiva and stole the ice from her. Literally within seconds it was gone, with ice cream cones and all. So nobody could eat an ice cream so quickly. Cheeky robbed, really. You have to imagine this. I also think that the seagulls agree that they will stay in such a small pack in front of ice cream shops and then wait exactly until someone buys an ice cream. The people here are all super peaceful. They leave the houses and doors open everywhere, cars parked open, but you should really be careful of seagulls. Yes, exactly. They're the real crooks here. Yes, but let's get to our topic today. That's really mega exciting and especially for people who have actually experienced it. They will surely understand that too. Our really cool topic today is the time of death or the moment of death from, well, the transition practically. Correctly. And the time of death can also be compared with the time of sleep. They say sleep is the brother of death. And if you think back to last night, the night before last, it's very difficult to determine the exact time when you fell asleep. And the time of death is no different. So there's just no real time of death. You don't even realize you're dead. That's the amazing thing. Yes, from the perspective of the observer. That is, if someone observes a person who is dying, they could roughly determine the time of death. It can also be determined medically. But for the dying person himself, the time of death cannot be determined. No, the exciting thing is, I mean, maybe we can talk about our... Exactly, because we've already experienced it anyway. I was in the near-death experience and somehow I was suddenly dead. Zach, and the funny thing is, I didn't even realize it. Yet, man, consciousness still remains itself. So, The I consciousness does not change. You're just suddenly not where you were. But in my case, I call it the sixth heaven. And yes, you can feel the transition from life to death. You're just suddenly somewhere else and it feels just like I'm sitting here now, only then in a sci-fi city or wherever you end up. Anyway, you don't realize it and it's so fascinating. The transition is just seamless. That's when you realize that you're really just consciousness and that you live in a body and that the body doesn't really belong to you. You just live in it. And that's actually really just awareness, until it just changes location. Yeah, right. So as an observer you can of course say, yes, he just died. But it's just the body. I have seen that. Yes. But the person who died doesn't really notice this moment. They change. This is because the body checks, for example, in the event of an accident, whether it is still viable. And if not, he throws out the personality. Imagine, for example, you see a woman swimming in the sea and a shark comes along and bites her in half from below. Very macabre death. An observer would still see the woman waving her arms, screaming for help. But that's only from the body. The personality that lived in the body has already left the body because the body has just recognized, I'm not viable like this anymore, so I'm kicking my host out. Yes. It is also interesting, and an important, really important question, which of course also arises in this context, is, does death really exist? Or is death just an illusion? Once when I was in a heightened state of consciousness, I saw, and it was the most blatant belief I've ever had, that death, disease, and everything related to it, actually doesn't exist at all. So the body doesn't have to die or get sick. So death really doesn't exist. My contribution. Since the time of death cannot really be determined from the perspective of the dying person, death is actually an illusion, because the dying person will not perceive the time of death himself, but instead switches directly to another reality. And so the statement, which one may have heard from some spiritual teachings, that death is an illusion, is of course actually correct. And another question that naturally arises from this is life then also an illusion, because you don't notice the transition? It's just the same as if I'm sitting here or in the sci-fi city. There is no difference. Both are equal and feel the same. So if death is an illusion, then so is life. So you might ask yourself, why don't you remember the life you had before? Why did you suddenly switch to this reality? Suddenly you were here. Perhaps one has forgotten that one died somewhere else and then entered the everyday world. And does everyday life exist at all? Because when I saw that, for a very short moment, I woke up somewhere else. So does this reality exist? Which is the true reality? Questions upon questions. But basically this video is about death. And then we can somehow find out. Death, what is death? Yes, the time of death can only be perceived by an observer. And so it's actually like in quantum physics. As soon as an observer is connected, the waves become particles. And if there is no observer, the particles are actually waves. And that's actually already the clue that death is perceptible from the observer's point of view, but not for the dying person himself. So you could actually redefine death, because what is death itself anyway? So death is actually just the task of the vital functions of the body. Yes. Which actually doesn't exist. But death is actually a transition into another reality for the dying person. That's it. Only that, so not the dying. The consciousness of the dying. Yes. Yes. So in my near-death experience, I've had 2 or 3 in the meantime, which I also provoked myself, I have to say, not through an accident, but really through very strong dissociative states of consciousness. I didn't even notice death. I actually switched reality and suddenly found myself in a different reality. There I perceived several realities in a row. I switched through about 50 or 100 different realities, and my higher self had also offered me that I could choose one of these realities and stay there if I wanted to. And yes, I think you often get an offer like that. I can think so too. Well, I once met a woman who almost drowned, and she just said that her body was still looking for a way out and then slowed down time. So that means that drowning is most likely not such a nice death, because the body tries to live on anyway, or he realizes that there may still be a way to survive, and then delays the perception of time. Do you maybe know when you had an accident with your bike as a child or something? It was also the case for me that when I had a bicycle accident, I just noticed that my brain, or that my body or the brain, slowed down the accident. In other words, I perceived everything in slow motion and was then able to coordinate exactly how best to fall so that I didn't incur so many wounds. And that seems to happen with drowning too. This delay in time, or slowing down this time, this slow motion perception, because the body just thinks there might be a way out, and then of course it's going to be a long death. So when the body thinks, yes, I could survive that, so stretch out like time and see if there is a way out somewhere, or if there is a possibility of getting out of here alive. But as soon as the body knows there is no longer a chance, it immediately throws the personality out. And that's why there can't be a time of death for the personality, because it doesn't even realize it. Because it changes from one level, i.e., from the everyday level, to another level of consciousness or to another reality. Just like sleeping. Exactly. We go to bed and at some point it clicks and we are suddenly in a different reality, in a different bed or in a different city and dreaming there. It's just that you're not aware of it. If you are dead and changing, you are already aware. You are already aware of yourself. You know you're kind of somewhere else right now. You don't notice that in a dream unless you're lucid. No, it's the same in death. That was very different for me. Yes, you experienced it differently in your near-death experience. That's right, yes, there are reports from people who were clinically dead. And of course some of them then described that they didn't realize they were dead. Okay. In other words, only when they came back into the body did they realize that something wasn't right or something. So that can happen. So it's, I haven't died that often. Hence, this saying, sleep is the brother of death. I find this very accurate. This comparison between sleep and death. Only when you sleep do you usually have the guarantee that you will wake up the next morning. Most of the time, yeah. There's this creepy children's song, and if God wills, you'll be woken up again tomorrow. Gruesome. Yes, and you play that on small children. They know that they are being prepared directly for the harsh reality. Yes, exactly. And yes, the time of death is therefore indeterminate from the perspective of the dying. Just as it is indeterminate for the sleeping person or the dreaming when he fell asleep. The exact time is therefore difficult to determine. So with my near-death experience, I didn't see a tunnel of light or a portal. Nothing at all, but well, we assume that the light tunnel or the light trap, whatever, leads directly to the fifth dimension, i.e., to the mental level. But I didn't see one or the other. I was right up there somewhere and it wasn't particularly bright either. It was just it was another planet, huge city. And it was all pretty high frequency. And yes, no idea where my light was, no one wanted me. Well, when I was up there, they offered me, you can stay here now, and I was already gone when practical. I immediately decided to come back down. Because I knew there was still a task waiting for me. I saw them too and thought, Jep. So I was allowed to decide whether to stay there and stay dead or go back. It was a wise decision because it's really beautiful here. Yes. Well, I assume that you switched into the mental body during your near-death experience. Yes. At least. And that's where you have quite a bit of freedom. You can already go to other planets. You can also get out of the matrix, I would say. And the problem is that the astral body was still below, on Earth. And that's why you had to go back, unless you had decided not to come back. Yes, of course, then the astral body would finally have separated from your body. But then, there is another question. What would have happened then, whether you really could have stayed? So my higher self was very clear, said, stay here or go. Yes, and that's why we don't know what level you were really on. But we know. Did you tell me? What then? On the higher astral planes. Yes, that's clear. On the higher astral planes, but they still belong to the multidimensional matrix. Yeah, of course. So there's 3D, 4D, 5D, so calculated in dimensions. And that was probably 6D. Correct. You could have pitched your tent there. I could have done awesome sci-fi city, mega, with spaceships, big building, mega. Yes. Everything is very exciting. I also noticed a level there and it's really like Star Trek. Yes. So is like Star Trek. So even better. Really now. Yes. Time of death. The time of death is either delayed by the slowdown, by the slow motion that can then appear, can often occur in accidents. Time of death from drowning is also slowed down, stretched quite a bit. Even if ultimately the final time of death is no longer perceived because the personality is then thrown out. But in a quick death, as the saying goes, the personality changes directly. And maybe you don't even get it. In your case, you got it. Were you aware that you actually still lying down there? On the bed? Were you aware of that then? Not that anymore. So you knew that you're dead now, right? Or how did you interpret that? To you? For me, the earth didn't even exist anymore. Let's put it this way, I was. For me, that was just the new reality, and as if the other didn't exist anymore. So you didn't even remember that you actually have a life on earth. No, see, that's what I meant. So the time of death was also not known. No, it passed me by unnoticed. Yes. Change directly, Zach. Forget all life on earth. It's that fast. deleted or at least deactivated, because when you came back to Earth you were able to remember. Yes. Yes. Very exciting. Yes, I asked that directly. And then there was the information about where I was and how and what. So, it was exciting. Yeah, do we have anything else to say? We have nothing more to say. We have nothing to say. No. No. Time of death? No. Okay, in summary, one can say that it does not exist. And you don't even notice him. So can we do the extra now? Yes, we can do the extra now. Okay. Yes, then we are very happy that you watched again. So write in the comments. Maybe you've already had a near-death experience. Could you describe how it was for you? Did you remember that you were still lying in bed? Clinically dead or something else? In an accident maybe? Or maybe you have had some experiences in the direction. We would be happy to receive a comment from you. Yes. I would also be very interested in how you fared. Yes, that's it for us again, from the Matrixers. Until next time, take care.